Alzheimer's disease is a progressive disease that starts with memory loss, making it the most common form of dementia. Early onset has an autosomal dominant pattern of inheritance, meaning that it only needs one copy of the gene to inherit the disorder, but late onset has an unknown pattern of inheritance. Inheriting one or more copies of the APOE4 gene allows an individual to be more likely to develop the disorder. Alzheimer's affects more than 5 million Americans. The disease risk increases as individuals age. Since life expectancy is increasing, the frequency of the disease is expected to increase. 13% of early onset inheritance are due to autosomal dominant cases. 40 to 80% of late onset are due to genetic inheritance. There's a lack of statistics due to environmental effects, but estimated 87% of early onset and estimated 20 to 60% of late onset are due to the interaction of environment and genetics. Most of the autosomal dominant genetic inheritance is due to mutations in APP, PSEN1, and PSEN2. APP creates instructions for the protein amyloid precursor, PSEN1 provides instructions for the protein penicillin-1, and PSEN2 provides instructions for the protein penicillin-2. APOE gene has the greatest inheritance with late onset inheritance. This is specific for E4 allele. The APOE makes the protein apolipoprotein E, and this protein makes lipoproteins that package cholesterol to carry them within the bloodstream.
23andMe tests for the E4 variant in the APOE gene. As mentioned before, this gene creates lipoproteins that work in cholesterol metabolism, or specifically, removing cholesterol from the bloodstream. Variations, such as E4, affect the rate of metabolism, with E4 raising cholesterol levels. Interestingly, despite being primarily expressed in the bloodstream, E4 seems to have a large influence in the brain tissues typically associated with the development of Alzheimer's disease. It is the gene most associated with Alzheimer's, in fact, with an approximately 15 times greater risk of Alzheimer's development associated with it. That being said, E4 is not a direct determinant of Alzheimer's. 23andMe does not test for any other genes typically associated with Alzheimer's.
What SNPs will all the tests include? In addition to testing for the epsilon-4 variant in the APOE gene, according to SNPpedia, there are roughly 4 to 5 other genes that will have an impact on Alzheimer's that we will include in our test. Our focus will be the RS637-50847A variant of the APP gene on chromosome 21. So, what does this variation do exactly? This variation provides resistance to Alzheimer's in an autosomal recessive pattern such that people with 2A alleles of this gene will be 4 times less likely to develop Alzheimer's. This change can change the ratio of amyloid beta 1-40 to amyloid beta 1-42 peptide ratios, which creates a positive change in the amyloid beta precursor protein, which is a protein that stimulates neural growth and repair. This is further shown by the study conducted by Johnson et al. In the graph to the right, red represents the carriers of the variant and blue represents the non-carriers. On the y-axis, you'll see CPS. The Cognitive Performance Scale, or CPS, score ranges from 0 to 6, with the lower score indicating a more intact mental function. As you can see on the graph, the carriers of this variant had a more intact mental function and therefore a lower CPS score. Alzheimer's is a multifactorial condition, which means that testing for more genetic variations provides a better teller of whether or not you will develop the condition. Additionally, our test tests for resistances as well as causes, and not just one major cause.
Some of the test limitations that we have is that although this is better than 23andMe because we are testing for another SNP, but we are only testing for one more when there are multiples that can affect Alzheimer's in different ways. The one that we are testing, however, is found to increase it the most, and this was through research through Mayo Foundation for Medical Education and Research, and it was very, very important in getting resources to tell us all about this, and it was very beneficial towards our research. Another one is that, again, it's only looking at the most major one, and this is, although it is major, it does not fully increase your chance or make it 100%. And finally, it cannot see if it was inherited or a mutation, and for some patients that can be a deterrent because they want to know if they got it through some sort of mutation or if they got it inherited through one of their family members. So also for the ethical considerations, there are 3 major ones that we found. That is emotional damage, financials, and lack of necessity for actually having the test done. So for the first one, emotional damage, this might not be emotional damage for the actual patient themselves, but this also could be emotional damage for the family in general. This is because when you are diagnosed with Alzheimer's, there is no way to cure you or aid in your ailments at all. However, people are protected by the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act of 2008. So this does help them in the workforce as not getting their job laid off or anything like that. However, they can become very depressed and very upset because they know that they do not have as long as everybody else might have to live. Another reason that somebody might also not take this test, including that, is, like I said before, financially. Although $200 might not seem a lot, for most people, a lot of people might struggle with this and are not able to actually donate $200 or pay $200 for that test. And others might also seem that this is not a worthy cost, and that's for the next reason. Last reason is because many people deem it not necessary, like I said before. And this is because it can be diagnosed without even getting a genetic test through the symptoms that somebody might present. Also, many professionals do not even recommend this because, as I said previously, if they are diagnosed, there is no way to really fix their illness or prevent it or anything of that nature.